A California teacher has been removed from a classroom after posting a viral TikTok video. We showed you this earlier this week. She faced backlash after suggesting students pledge allegiance to the pride flag and after saying she removed the American flag from her classroom because it made her feel uncomfortable. Her name is Annette Franco, and a spokesperson for the United Mesa United School District, the Newport Mesa United School District, told the Orange County Register, quote, "Showing respect for our nation's flag is an important value that we instill in our students and an expectation of our employees. This teacher is no longer in the classroom, and we follow due process, and our investigation continues." Meanwhile, in Sacramento, the Sacramento Bee, the local paper there, reporting that the Natomas Unified School District has announced plans to fire a teacher shown in an undercover video discussing Antifa and saying that he wanted his students to become revolutionaries. Project Veritas filmed and edited the video. They say it shows a high school government teacher, his name is Gabriel Gripe, having a controversial conversation off campus. Many of you have seen that already, but he is no longer in the classroom, according to the school district there. And joining us to talk more about this is investigative journalist and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, Christopher Rufo. Christopher, great to see you again.
It's great to be with you.
And it's great to finally talk to you. We've had this scheduled for a couple of times now, but the situation in Afghanistan has preempted our interview. But, you know, we have these two cases here, and again, two specific examples with video evidence to prove that, in fact, this is happening in public schools at the elementary and grade school levels.
Yeah, that's right. And there's two really important points to these stories. First is that this is barely the tip of the iceberg. There are teachers like this all over the country, in all 50 states. But second, the school districts, surprisingly in the very blue state of California, are responding to parents who all over the country are up in revolt against critical race theory in the classroom, against indoctrinating students rather than teaching them. This is a very encouraging sign. And I think what we're going to have is a steady drumbeat of these stories where teachers are told, if you indoctrinate in the classroom, if you push your own political opinions in the classroom, you will be removed from the classroom. Because the bottom line is this: we have to get these political predators out of our schools.
A great point, Christopher. And I wonder if we had not already seen, you know, this kind of national response from parents outraged over what's happening, you know, in Loudoun County, Virginia, or even in, I think, in Oregon, some places too, in your home state of Washington State. I wonder if these school districts in California would have been so quick to act.
They likely would not have been so quick to act. And I think what's happening is that for many years, American parents really delegated responsibility to the school boards, to bureaucrats, to school officials, basically thinking that the public schools were still fine, operating as normal. But now they've woken up. They've woken up because of investigative reporting, including my own. But also they've woken up because during COVID, they had a zoom-eyed glimpse into what's happening in the classroom. And they were terrified. They were horrified. They were really deeply concerned. So we're having parents now putting pressure on school boards. They're now exercising their democratic power. And school boards, thankfully, even in California, are responding by instituting these very common sense reforms. And here's the really important thing. If you would do this at any other place of employment, bring your private politics in, violating that company's policy, harming children in this case, you would be fired immediately. There's no reason that public schools shouldn't do the same thing.
And too, the way that these two teachers talked about this kind of, you know, with impunity, the one posting it publicly on TikTok, it just makes you wonder how they were able to get to that point in the first place where they think this would be okay. I mean, the American flag, one nation under God, indivisible. We all are supposed to pledge allegiance to that. At least that was what we grew up believing anyway. Chris, I also want to talk about, you know, critical race theory and things like inclusive language now inside the federal government. Earlier this week, we talked about the CDC putting out new guidance on inclusive language. And, you know, they're focused on things like, you know, people changing the terms drug users and addicts to persons who use drugs, people who inject drugs, also talking about homelessness here. But this is, again, you know, another soft example. Anytime you hear the word inclusion or unity, you know, you kind of got to take a deeper look, because this is how they do it, right? They slowly start pushing it in. You hear this term whole of government response from the Biden administration. This is what they're talking about.
That's right. And what's really happening is that the political left and now the federal government under the Biden administration is trying to manipulate language in order to advance their political goals. And the key strategy, and exactly what's happening in the examples that you've shown, is that they cover their radical political ideas in euphemism, and they try to make them invulnerable to criticism. Because look, no one's going to oppose diversity, equity, inclusion. Those things all sound good. And the solution for conservatives is to really do the digging, figuring out what exactly do those terms mean in reality, not just the covert or the cover of euphemism, and then to come up with our own language. We have to develop our own vocabulary. We have to develop our own key phrases in order to fight this and set the terms in our own linguistic base. And I think that's really the important thing. Don't take these words at face value. Always do your homework. Always develop your own language, your own vocabulary.
It's very important, because we could have this debate. You could get involved talking to somebody for 15 minutes trying to figure out exactly what pronouns you're supposed to use. That's where we are. But to your point, everybody should check out that document from the CDC and read it for yourself and see what we're working with here. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is critical race theory in the military. And I want to focus back on what General Milley said on June 23rd of this year. And here he was testifying before Congress. White rage, lecturing the members of Congress, saying that he wants to understand white rage and what it is used, or what it is that caused thousands of people to assault the building in the Capitol. But on that same day, this was a report that Reuters put out. This was happening again on the same day. There were attacks in Afghanistan. The Taliban were seizing a border post there. Don't you think General Milley regrets going so far down this road, considering what we've seen in Afghanistan?
I hope that he does. I'm not sure that he does. There's no evidence that he does. But the point here is that the military, like many other American institutions, has really separated the modern from the postmodern. In these kind of postmodern ideas of identity, of deconstructing white rage, et cetera, the military has excelled. They've assigned Robin DiAngelo, the famous author of White Fragility, to soldiers out in the field. But what they failed at is the actual modern imperatives of holding territory, defeating an enemy, coming up with a coherent military strategy. And it's by no surprise that on the same day that General Milley is lecturing Congress about quote unquote white rage, the Taliban was taking over territory. This should cause deep alarm. And luckily, Representative Jim Banks has introduced legislation just this week to ban critical race theory from the military. I think that's important. Democrats are blocking it. But when there is a change of power, this should be a very top priority for the Congress.
It's a fair question, too, to ask is, when they were focused so much on the 60-day stand down to address white extremism or, extremism in the military, did that cause the loss of life? Did that cause them to take their eye off the ball and miss some of this stuff? Those are the questions we hope Congress can answer. Christopher Rufo, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.